We're ready to go. We are live. And we're fucking doing it. Cool. Christoph, tell people once again who you are, what your job title is at Fisker Skis, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, what's up? My name's Christoph Lentz, and I am the product manager for Alpine Boots at Fischer Sports, based in the headquarters in Ried im Innkreis, Upper Austria, so near Salzburg. And yeah,
I realized I didn't I last time I had you on, we didn't talk very much about your personal like background, and like we talked a little bit about it, but I think the audio was so shitty that maybe a lot of people didn't get it. So like talk about your background in skiing, talk about I don't know, why the interest in this job at all. Yeah.
yeah. I grew up in Park City, Utah, and started ski racing pretty early on. Was also a Nordic skier, a ski jumper as well. I have a German mother who's from Garmisch-Partenkirchen in Bavaria, Germany, and she had a love for skiing, so it was kind of something we were always exposed to, and part of the reason why we grew up in Park City. It was something I always loved to do, and was really my life for most of my uh, first 20 years on the earth. Raced all the way through, took a postgraduate year before moving out east, and raced out of Williams College for 4 years. And yeah, East Coast Williams exposure pushed me in a totally different direction. I did finance, worked for a startup
Oh,
in New York, in Manhattan, for 4 years, and had a really good time, but also realized that I missed the mountains, I missed skiing, and that was kind of what made me happy, even if there was more money to be made in New York and in fintech. So resigned. 2019, moved to Europe. Big change. Having the German roots gave me the ability to speak German, and a German passport, which kind of simplified things. And kind of started learning, drinking from the fire hose, if you might, about everything ski boots. Before that, I'd always been gear interested, but never really thought all the way through to how this stuff is made. Was always tinkering kind of with whatever I got. And I think a lot of that had to do with kind of the racing mentality and always looking for an advantage, an edge, and wanting to have complete confidence in your stuff. So now I'm on the other side of things, trying to make this stuff, and it's a whole nother series of kind of hurdles and complications, and just a whole nother challenge to make a lot of these things that are not so easy to make.
yeah, and I'm very excited that you have this position, and I have been for a little while. And I mean, we met in person a few weeks ago at the Ranger release, and one of the things that you notice right away talking to you is that you're super, super passionate about this, and you actually like really, really care, and that's and you express it. I guess I'm sure a lot of boot guys care. They just don't. They're not like ramped up, like itching in their own skin about how much they care about ski boots and issues and making products better and making what people want to ski in more. And I think that's one of the biggest differences. And I think that's why Fisher is lucky to have you, if nothing else. I mean, you're bringing a different perspective to a very Austrian brand. So I think it's rad. I think it's a great thing, and I'm very excited. And there's some very cool developments that have happened since you've been there. Last time you were on, we talked about Transalp, which was like not really all you had you had something to do with it, but not it wasn't your baby. Now we kind of jump into this year where we're going to talk about a boot that is now an award-winning boot as of today, a kids boot, which I feel like before we get into this, why does nobody talk about kids boots or kids skis or kids product or rental ski? Like that's what makes the money for everybody is getting product into the hands of the next generation and rentals and like the next tier of skiers? Why don't people talk about that enough?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a segment that is overlooked, and that was, I think, part of the brilliance of trying to target that group. I mean, it's a difficult one for the industry and for the brands to manage. I mean, the prices on kids' gear, and just speaking generally, kids' gear needs to be relatively low because they grow out of it so much, and you kind of need to buy stuff year over year. Um, and so it's a difficult one for a sales rep or for everybody to. It's not the cash cow, but I agree with you, and I think that's the right attitude, and that was very much our thinking: is target the next generation of skier, get them hooked and started early, get them exposed to the brand, and from personal experience, I know if you have a boot brand out there, particularly boots, and you've had a bad experience with one, you really are never going to reach for that again because there's so many good options out there. But if you have a good experience, why would you ever switch when you know that it's worked for you? Um, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say, like the brand loyalty thing is still very much alive and well, even though it doesn't necessarily make any sense. The amount of people that you see come into a ski shop and go, "Oh, like I have a foot for Technica, or I have a foot for Roz," and you're like, "It's the mold is different. Like it's a different boot than it was the last time when you bought a Mega 8 or whatever the fuck, you know? Like it's just not." It's not the same thing. So I guess you're right. They hold on to that idea that they have a foot for Full Tilt or for Fischer or for whatever for a long time. And I think one of the best things about the launch of this boot is that it's going to actually like put it in the hands of one, the adult. They're going to put it on their kid's foot and go, okay, here's an innovation that's like being made for my child and that's making my life easier. And also, like, I don't know, the kid at this age probably not gonna remember that my first ski boot was a Fisher, but I mean, somebody told me it looks like a fucking Yeezy. Maybe they will. Like, it looks, it's the best looking kids boot I've seen in a while. We were at that Fisher event a few weeks ago talking about the new Ranger ski, and all Adam and I could talk about was the stupid kids boot for. And shouldn't even say it's like a stupid kids boot because it's amazing. It's the best kids boot that I've seen in so long. So I don't know. Talk to me a little bit about what the boot is and why we're making such a big deal out of it.
Yeah, I guess I won't go into using any superlatives to talk about it, but I tend to agree with you. It does look unlike really anything out there. It is a different construction basis than really anything else on the market today. And by that, we really focused on building a one-piece chassis that really allows us to reduce the weight um, and give the kids the stability they need. At the same time, we paired it with a zippered, double insulated, waterproof gaiter that covers the whole boot. And this also with a lot of our experience in the Nordic side of things, working with a lot of soft components mixed with hard components. We have some experience there, and have especially on the materials side, have a lot of experience there. Um, in general, we when we really started the project, we had it on paper that this was the area to focus on for all the reasons already listed, and we started going out with kids and their parents with ski schools and actually spending a bunch of time on the slopes and figuring out what really the problems are. And that's like watching a lot of kids put on and off ski boots. They're struggling to get it on and off. They need help. So that's kind of the start of it. Then you go through a whole day skiing with 2 to 5 year olds, which was an experience in of itself for me because it's been a long time since I've skied with like little kids. And going to the lodge and just seeing like the daily struggles that everybody's got. So the idea was if we can fix those, there's obviously a huge commercial opportunity here, brand loyalty, etc. But we can also just make skiing more fun, more enjoyable for the kid, importantly, but also the parents. or the ski instructor or whoever's actually taking them out. So the goal was to make it easy for the kid to put it on and off themselves, and that led to kind of some of these design considerations that I went into, kind of the lightweight, single chassis, the zipper, the gator. That construction was really born out of all this analysis and kind of user panels and observation, and really trying to identify the problem areas. Then, of course, there's the warmth factor, dry factor, comfort factor, needing to get that right. And then lastly was really the weight. So when you look at a lot of our historical boots, a lot of the competitor boots, and I mean, our alone, those molds had not been touched in a decade. So it's not a segment that's readily being innovated. And a lot of the competitors are similar. You do a color update every 2-3 years, but
Right.
you're not reinventing, and kind of it's not on the leading edge of the development. But in this case, we spent the last several years really honed in on that. And that was seeing, okay, how can we fit the right anatomy of the kids? And so giving them the right shape, which helps keep it warm, but also helps us reduce the weight. So we saved about 20%, 25% over where we've been in the past, which is about 80 grams per boot on a 15.5, which doesn't sound a lot, but when you add that up, so times 2 is already 160 grams. And we at Fischer have new skis and bindings coming this year as well that have the same focus of kind of making everything easier, more enjoyable, that also reduce the weight. We come to like 600 grams reduced in total on the set. And when you do that math based on what a little 2-year-old weighs, for an adult, that's like saving a couple pounds. And that changes your day completely. Like you have more energy, you just everything is smilier when you're not flipping that weight around.
Yeah, and I imagine this has a huge opportunity for lease business, for shops to like buy into their programs. Like this is the boot that I'm bringing in for us for sure. I mean, it's a no brainer because why wouldn't you? You're fitting a rental boot or you're fitting a kid's boot at all. The biggest quarrel is always like getting that thing on a little kid's foot. You know, it's like especially if you have a boot that has 2 buckles and you're not using like a rear entry style boot. It's it's pretty insane. So I guess one of the things I wonder is, does this have further application down the line for bigger sizes? Not necessarily adults. Any maybe it does, but I'm not super interested in just adults. This right now goes Ranger 1, 15, 16, and 17, right? And then the 2 is 18, 19, 20.
Correct.
So does this have applications for a 20 and a 21 through a 25, say, right? Because that's one of the biggest categories where parents start buying or leasing a new boot, in a lot of ways. Is that like 21 to 25 size?
Yeah, we kind of, especially in our analysis, broke it down into different stages, and
Okay.
we developed this for what we see as kind of that earliest stage, where there's still like these kids are not going out skiing by themselves. There's always parental or adult supervision, usually in ski school or just going skiing with the parents, and really like at the age where skiing is almost more just playing in the snow. Like you put your skis on and slide around on the magic carpet or the bunny hill for a little bit, but then it's also about building a snow cave and having a snowball fight and all the other winter fun things to do as a child. There is, of course, a step above that. And really, this construction was focused where ski performance was not one of our key factors of success. We were really looking at that ease of handling, the warmth, comfort factor, and the reduction of weight. Not to say we didn't think about how this boot skis. And we did tests to make sure all of that was in order, but really, these kids are not at that level yet. And
Right.
so I see that as a clear distinction to the next step up, which is a 3 and 4 buckle, more substantial boot once they really start progressing. And this is really for that age of you're getting comfortable with the novel feeling that we all love by now, the sliding over snow powered by gravity. Like that's weird at the beginning.
Yeah. No,
And
I think it's huge for that. And I guess I don't even mainly I want one in the 27.5 and I want to be able to ski one myself eventually because it looks fucking cool. And that was half of the messages that I got was like, all right, I don't have a kid. And my response was like, make a kid or find a kid and give them this boot. But people like this kind of design. And I think there's so many people out there that have the thought of like ski boots are uncomfortable. I don't care about performance. My only goal is to do one thing, and that's to get down the hill and have a good time. So I guess it's two things, but that's what their goal is. So I don't know. That's why I wonder about the future potential implications for a design like this. Even if it adds a buckle, even if it adds a, I don't know, it adds something to it because there's, I don't know, I don't know. It's just a thought. It's a hope and a dream. It's a pipe dream.
yeah, it's definitely there are companies out there that have a open zipper construction for adults.
Yeah, I know. It's not the same though. This is
And
not as cool.
I think it might not be the right application for you. But I think for the target group where we were really focused, it is the right application. I've skied with you, and I know you like skiing, and your ski day is not all about getting in and out of your boots.
I
And
know. It just looks cool, and I think that there's a gap to be bridged here in the future, and it's not now, but there's a gap to be bridged between people that just want to have a boot that does everything, right? And I don't know that we'll ever get to the point where you can have a boot that you wear around town and also go skiing in, right? And this is maybe a completely insane even thought, but I think that's where a lot of this shit can start. Like, and it's where we eventually get to this point where skiing is totally accessible in a way that, like, okay, this is my snow boot. I do everything snow related in this. Obviously, skiing is more complicated than just that. That's kind of where my head is at. It's not necessarily just me personally. I just think the thing fucking looks cool, and I want to like have a cool looking boot. Like, not that the Transalp that I ski in regularly doesn't look cool, but there's a certain design aspect that I think you guys knocked out of the park with this kid's boot that people are really vibing with, which is which is really neat. I don't know. I guess I'm impressed, but I'm hopeful for some future innovations from this crew over at Fischer, I think.
yeah, I mean, I think you're hung up on the Yeezy comparison, and you're just like, I gotta have it. Um, and I would say
No,
there is
but
a
people
certain
are hyped.
design link to your Transalps too. There is a little bit of a common design link there. I think the team did a
Right.
great job on it. It looks great. It's been working great for us, and the reception has been awesome. It's definitely an eye catcher,
Yeah.
um, and something that's really unique and innovative on the market. So I'm really excited to see where it goes from here.
No,
And
it's amazing.
really,
You guys are gonna sell a million of them. I hope. We both hope.
we both
On that topic, I mean, you just won an Ispo Award. We're gonna talk about that real quick. I mean, that's crazy. That just happened today, basically. So this is like fresh news. Like, what does that kind of validation feel like?
It's cool. I mean, and I guess kind of in my whole trajectory personally here, I mean, I feel really fortunate to be at Fisher at this moment. I think it's been tough couple years for the ski industry and the world at large with everything going on. But I think when I look at the Fisher product portfolio and the team that has helped bring such things as the Fisher One and the Fisher Two to market, I'm stoked, and so I feel like I'm got a really awesome position and a great vantage point to kind of see what happens. And I'm really thankful that they gave me enough trust to kind of hand me the keys to the boot making operations, and let's see what we can do.
Yeah. What we talked a little bit about this when I saw you last. The the order of operations or the chain of command, I guess, if you will, in Austria seems very different than it is in the US. So like you go there and you're like you're in your position, you get to be like, okay, look, I'm the guy now, and people listen to you. People that have been making boots for a long time respect your opinion and respect your position because of the position that you were put in, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a unique role, kind of being in charge of an international product collection. And
Right.
to quote my boss, I mean, to be a product manager for one country or one market is really easy. You just listen to the market and make what they ask for. Um, but when you're balancing a dozen large markets, couple dozen huge countries, everybody with kind of conflicting interests, you need somebody there who makes the decision, because everybody else is already kind of too biased, who's deep enough into their market. So yeah, it's been cool to see. I think, I don't know, I'm a passionate skier, and I think I've been associated with the Fischer brand for a while, but I've had a long relationship, and so I I am passionate about it, and it's been cool. I think looking back to my last job was not excited about what I did every day,
Yeah.
and it's cool to be in a position where you're pretty jazzed about going to work every day. I will say it has changed my experience on the ski hill, because I just can't go skiing the same way without
How
seeing
so?
boots everywhere.
Oh
And
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like, hey man, that's like a first generation Hawks. You don't see that every day.
Yeah.
People don't care.
Yeah, but that's what makes you so good at your job. And I feel like this is a fluff piece on you right now, but you're you pay attention to that kind of shit. And all day you're like, even when I saw you, even today, you're like showing me screenshots of shit that I posted, and you're like, this is how I think, this is how I look at other stuff. And I'm sure other people do this too, but I don't know, it shows a certain level of care that and awareness that like there's other shit going on around you other than just what happens in Fisher. And that sounds really obvious to a lot of the people on the outside, but it's not. It's not a thing that everybody just thinks. It's not a way that everybody just thinks in terms of like the global aspect of branding and the way the product is made.
Yeah, I have a hard time saying from from my seat, but yeah, it's wild because pretty much most of my social network and everybody I know is the ski world. So
Right.
um, being deep in there is nice, and it's also, yeah, a relatively small section in the grand scheme of things to focus in on. So yeah, I'm having fun.
Good. I'm glad. All right, let's move along to Ranger updates for boots. What changed for next year? Colorway is very good, by the way. I'm a huge fan, and I hope all the Austrians listening know that I very much think that this is like the best colorway that has come out of Fisher in a long time. Like the cola and green is not something that we've seen in a while. What are we calling it officially?
We're calling it cola.
Oh,
So
perfect. Great.
yeah, it is called cola. And the green is some sort of forest green. Um, don't quote me on the Pantone there. But yeah, the Ranger got an update for 22-23, and this was more than just a visual update. We tried to pull as many levers as we could to ramp up the performance of the boot, without modifying the molds. So kind of so the first thing we did was changed the shell material from Gorilla Mid to PU, and that was uh, to a large degree to help the flex and the skiing of the boot. I think within the Fischer collection, we have introduced the Transalp last year, and so that gave us another option in addition to the Traverse as a uphill oriented, still relatively lightweight boot, which gave us room to ramp up the Ranger, which had previously been our second touring boot in the lineup. and was the downhill oriented one. Now that we have really three, and if you include the Ranger 1, 4 touring boots, we decided to really put the Ranger as much in the downhill performance category as possible. And that's also a recognition that people going uphill in this boot are doing it to ski the downhill, and a lot of people are skiing this boot in resorts and maybe not necessarily walking uphill. The change to the PU shells really helped the rebound of the entire boot. The Gorilla Mid is notoriously dead and ceramic. Doesn't give you kind of the same feeling you're used to in a standard ski boot. So there's a little more liveliness there. It's also more durable, and it shrinks a little bit less than the Gorilla Mid. So we've actually gained a little bit of a different fit through less material shrinkage after it comes out of the mold.
Okay.
In addition to that, we completely redid the liner. So that also was to focus on making it ski better. We stiffened the tongue. We used more dense materials in the body of the liner that are more pack out prone and kind of give it a snugger, more compact fit. We reworked the heel and the kind of the heel pocket to make that sit better. And what else did I say? And we put Velcro outer, so what we're calling that our IFZ individual fit zone lining that makes it all Velcro pad adjustable.
Okay.
Which is a kind of shortcut boot fitting method where we have pads that have Velcro backing that you can cut in all shapes and sizes, come in pre-cut shapes and sizes that make a world of difference if you've got an ankle hotspot or missing some heel hold or a lot of general midfoot ailments. So, in all, those were kind of the technical updates. We gained a little bit of weight, 180 grams, but we think that's in line with where it needs to be. And in my personal opinion, I think the extra weight is a benefit when you're charging downhill, and we know that people charge in this boot. The whole lineup got a new color update, and I have to give credit to our designer, who I think did a good job of mixing the new Ranger ski lineup and kind of finding a new direction for this whole Ranger collection, including the skis. That's a little more understated, some non-traditional Fischer colors that has this clean but still finished and strong look. And yeah, this is the result. So yeah, I'm skiing the Ranger 130 Pro model. And the only other difference on this boot to all the others is it has the Vibram grip lock soles for a little extra stickiness.
Got it. Size. So 2 questions, I guess. One, I want to know sizes that this thing is available in, and that will be shipping in the fall. The other thing I'd like to know is, how do we feel about the boots that have pins in them but no walk modes? Because that was one of the top, when I posted all the new line stuff for next year. One of the main questions was about that K2 boot that has pins in it but no walk mode. And last year, all I did was shit all over the Krypton for having pins and no walk mode. And this year, after I talked to Tom, and he kind of explained who that boot is for. I kind of get it a little more, but I was wondering what your opinion was on that, and if we're going to start to see I don't know, a curve or a podium boot with pins in it in the near future.
I think to answer your last question, I think a podium boot is unlikely, as those molds are very much the property of our race department, and they don't fucks with the pin inserts in their boots. Yeah, I mean, it's something I think we've kind of seen coming a little bit. You mentioned the Dalbella boot, the Krypton, that was really the kind of the first one to do it. I mean, if you look at in general, like the boys in Victor, Idaho, caste system, getting plug race boots sent to them and reworking those inserts
Right.
into it. It's not completely new. There's been kind of a core segment of people who have been doing it for a minute. And I mean, if you think about who's going to use that, it's going to be somebody who doesn't want or doesn't really care about how fast they get uphill. Like they want supreme power and control and most fun when they ski downhill. And ergo the cast bindings.
Right.
Um, yeah, I if you think about a touring boot, the most important direction of range of motion is to the front. I think the industry is a little fixated on range of motion numbers. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a number that you can put in your spec sheet, and it's something easy for a shop employee to quote. But it's
Dead on. Yeah.
like if you walk when you're skinning, when you're boot packing, the movement your knee and your ankle makes is to the front, and the motion to the back, in my opinion, is most necessary for driving the car, pushing the gas pedal, and I'm not saying it, but like the
Uh,
Traverse and the Transalp are great boots if you're so inclined.
Driving
For
cars.
But yeah, like the motion to the back becomes critical if you're skinning on flat. So
Got
if
it. Okay.
he's gonna ski steeps,
You don't think it matters?
I get it. I get it. We see, I mean, Atomics started to do it with their hybrid technology. They've got setting up their molds so they only need to put a toe insert. They're getting rid of the back insert. You can kind of see where it's
Right.
going. A lot of people skiing in shift bindings, a lot of people skiing in a Duke PT binding. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it performs. I'm interested to see, yeah,
Yeah.
if they're successful with it or not. I don't know if the market is there, but a core group of skiers, that's exactly.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. I think to some people it probably is a very good product, and it makes sense. I also I wondered if there was anything that deteriorated the quality of that downhill boot and the quality of the product overall by adding pinned inserts to a regular alpine boot. But I imagine not, right? Like, I mean, you got everybody makes a touring boot with an alpine norm.
There were some stories a while back, and some certain types of inserts had some problems. I don't want to say exactly which one it was because I'm not certain anymore. But yeah, it's totally still in the norm. It's not a problem.
Okay,
Um, yeah, but I mean, it costs more, and so I think that's kind of the question. I mean, putting an insert in a boot is a big cost factor, and will the market pay for that? Maybe.
yeah, maybe. And I think the thing is uh, that we pay so much attention to that premium product, that top end stuff, but realistically, it's where the least amount of money is actually made, and it's where the most amount of money is actually spent. So it's really we talk about it a lot, but to me, it's not. I don't know. What are shops are not going to sell that many of them. It's cool. It's a cool conversation piece. And I think it's cool to talk about. But I talked to somebody in my DMs today about like why they do that and why I like skiing in a touring boot. And my reasoning was exactly the same as what you said. It's like I like putting my boots on in my living room and driving to the hill. And he was like, I like to go walk around at lunch and feel comfortable. And those were like our reasons. So I guess it's you make a valid point with all that
There's options out there.
for sure. All right, one of the last things I want to talk to you about is women's boots or boots that go down to a 22.5 in a 130 flex in a true 22.5. For those that are unfamiliar, the girls that host the Monday show, Big Stick Energy, had Matt Manzer, I believe his name is, on from Atomic to talk about their Hawks 130 in a 22.5. And since then, basically everybody from every company has reached out to me saying like, okay, look, there are other options in 22.5, in a 130, in a true 130 flex. Here's also the reasons why, like, it's not as readily available. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle of the two sides. Because I think there's the camp that's like, okay, do you necessarily need a 130 flex boot? And if you do, what's wrong with the men's one? And then there's the other camp that's like, women need 130 flex boots. Absolutely. I feel like I'm somewhere in between because I feel like most men don't need a 130 flex boot. Um, I feel like most people probably don't need a 130 flex boot. And again, we're talking about a small segment of the market that is very, I don't know. It's like not that many people are going to buy 130 flex boots, period, like across the board. So so you tell me what's Fisher's stance on it? What's offered in smaller sizes that can be compatible for a 130 for somebody that wants a 130 flex option down to a 22? What's the story? And if you can, because you wrote me a long email about why this doesn't exist, talk to me a little bit about why it doesn't exist more readily on the market, not just from you guys, but in general.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, and now I'm going on the record on on my thoughts here. No,
You don't have to
I
say anything like,
I think
just
there's
how you
a important distinction in kind of the way you framed everything as well. When you say women's boots in a 130 flex, I think everybody, every brand offers that,
right,
and has, especially including race boots, something in that segment.
right.
I think there's a certain special conversation about women's touring boots in Flex
Yes. Right.
130, and I think there's a special conversation about touring boots that get sold with the 130 Flex name, and I think
Yes.
there's already, even within the male population, the whole discussion of what is a 130 Flex and what is a 130 Flex touring boot. So there's kind of a number of mixed messages there. I think the toughest part is speaking more about the touring boot side. And I kind of dodged your question earlier. I mean, we wanted to, and we proposed the Ranger with 20, starting at size 22.5. Unfortunately, there was not enough demand to make that size, so we didn't reach the minimum order quantity for it to be worthwhile to make that size. And then the pre-forecast numbers where we have to start making the decisions, are we going to produce or not, were dangerously low. And so that's an easy decision for everybody else involved, that doesn't make sense to produce. I think that's kind of the crux of the argument, is why does that happen? Where me am convinced, and I listen to all of your shows, I listen to all the big stick energy shows. I get the topic, but even in my position, I can't force that out. It's one of those, we need the next step of dealers to recognize that there's a market there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the question, yeah, does that make sense? Um, yeah, it's a complicated topic
Yeah,
because there
and I
are
didn't mean
also,
to frame it poorly either. I guess because you're right, like, everybody already makes a race boot. There are a lot of all mountain boots that are able that you can buy down to that 22.5, but touring boots are, I think, where people are hung up on the most lately. Um, I I just wonder where that change starts to happen, right? Because I think people think, "Oh, it's Fisher that's not offering it." And it's not that you guys aren't offering it. It's that there isn't enough buy-in, because it's not like, people get to raise their hand preseason and go, "I want one," and that's how you determined, who wants what, right? And I think that's one of the biggest things that needs to be talked about and people kind of need to understand is the pressure needs to be put not just on brands, because I think a certain amount of it does belong on the brands, but it needs to be presented to the reps in a way that they can sell it to shops correctly. And shops need to understand that, like, okay, there is a market for this kind of thing. This is important.
yeah. Yeah, I think there's going to be a reckoning in probably the coming years with I think this being a hot topic and probably shops starting to carry more and more smaller sizes.
Yeah.
Um, and I hope that's the case, and I hope they fly off the shelves because I mean I'm all for being inclusive. My fear is that in a year there's going to be way too many uh 22, 21 fives on stock, and yeah, then the industry is going to retreat even further. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and again, such a small percentage of people that actually need this thing, but it's always a bummer to me when the options aren't there for the people that really want them and for the people that really want to ski them. And to me, I always have this image in my head of like Alex Armstrong modifying her boots, or Hadley Hammer modifying her boots so that she can have a performance touring boot that's good enough for her to ski on and feel like she gets the performance that she needs out of it. That's a that's where I guess I have the that's why I'm so stuck on the conversation, even though like I understand. Like I said, I'm very much in the middle. I think it's we need the option needs to be there, and it's one of those things that like we're gonna lose money on it, being the companies, and that's okay. But it's hard to I don't know. Bottom line is the bottom line, so it's hard to position it like that.
Yeah, I love Hadley Hammer, and I want her to have the best skiing boots possible. I think she's getting on her way there, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be a topic to observe. I think, um, yeah, we'll see. I'm still new here, so let's see what I can do, and
Yeah,
check back in with me in a couple of years. We'll see where we're at.
I will. I'm sure you'll get some stuff done. I'm very excited, as I've told you. And I think you're doing a great job. And I guess the main reason I bring this up is that I want people to know that it's not like you didn't push for it, right? It's not as simple as like the Fischer boot guy hates people with small feet and that ski well. It's not That's not what the situation is. And I feel like the internet is this big suck hole where which is a new word maybe, or a new phrase. The internet is a new suckhole where like somebody has an idea and then everybody has the same idea and everybody thinks it applies to everything, and everybody's like, oh, the Fisher guys hate small people that ski, like, and it's just not it's not what's happening at all. So
That's
it's
true.
I don't know, it's I've just felt like it was important to touch on. So
Yeah.
um
Hashtag small feet matter too.
hashtag small, yeah, small everything matters. um anyway, Christoph, thank you for the time. This has been great. Where can people find you on social if people want to reach out to you about boot stuff? Are you willing to engage them? What's the story there?
I'm very happy to engage. I'll tell you whatever I know. I'm on Instagram, Christoph underscore Lentz, Z. But yeah, um, yeah, happy to chat. Even happier to go ski.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
look forward to the next time we get to go do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I need an Austria invite ASAP at Lando. Anyway, all right. This is this is it. Thank you, dude.